So hello, welcome to MDEFest. Welcome to IA and Barcelona. My name is Jean-Luc. My pronouns are he, him, his, and I'm a member of the Tunica Biloxi tribe of Louisiana. Today we're gathered because of an event that happened, actually some history that was reconciled within the last month. This is in relation to the Kamloops Indian Residential School at the end of last month. A mass grave of 215, and now it's actually 215 plus children was found, and we're actually awaiting the final report of the discovery of that grave at the end of this month. But it does call to mind some issues, not just for Kamloops, Shawitmik, but overall the world in relation to indigenous peoples, in relation to immigrant communities. What is the global impact of cultural genocide, specifically through residential schools? And of course, we're centering the community at this point. But then also, how should our social structures respond towards recovery? How should we, as designers, as educators, how should we actually responsibly act? So as I said, I'm actually in Barcelona. I'm a member of the Tunica Biloxi tribe. So my journey for MDEF has taken me from being an indigenous person in my own homelands, being in New England in the traditional indigenous territory of the Massachusetts Nation, and then coming here to Catalonia. And for my tribe specifically, we have had government-to-government relationships with Spain since the 18th century. As a matter of fact, the land where my tribe actually occupies at this time is the remainder of a Spanish land grant, which was then later confirmed by Louisiana Governor Sebastian Miro, who himself was from Tarragona. So there's historical ties between myself and this land, and so I'm happy to be here, to be a part of this journey, and to form my own personal relationship with this land. So we have a few people, and we actually have some people here in the room, and we're actually going to have some people coming in and out. This is Barcelona, this is Spain, so I'm pretty sure I'm not going to have a full crowd until 10 minutes or so, but I do want to, we have a full agenda, so I want to make sure that we're online on time. So if we can, just very briefly, if you feel able, can you please share your name, your organization, and your country where you are, and perhaps your country of origin. So we'll start. Mary Lou, can you give a quick introduction?
I'm Mary Lou, I'm from the Netherlands. And I work for an organization. I work as an anthropologist. We spoke a few weeks ago. Here for my research and classical research. I'm right now in Barcelona, but I'm from the Netherlands originally.
Thank you. And Rebecca?
Hi, everyone. I'm Rebecca Ottinger. I am in the US and in Boston. I work for the FAB Foundation. It's really good to see Jean-Luc. And I am actually Armenian and German Jewish. So those are my my roots, and I'm from California, where I was born.
Awesome. And just a reminder for everybody, we are live streaming on YouTube, but just make sure that if you want to keep your camera off, that's fine too. Wendy, do you want to really quickly give some words about yourself?
Sure. I'm Wendy, and it's nighttime here. That's why it's dark. My heritage is as I'm in New Zealand, and it's I'm a white New Zealander, or a Pākehā, with a heritage that's French, Spanish, Irish, and I'm a interested person from my own organisation.
And I'm switching to the room for right now. Let me see if I can get over to, let me pin this video. So do you mind, just a couple of people that we have in here. Mariana, do you want to just give a quick introduction?
Yeah, should I come close?
Yeah, come closer to the speakerphone so that so that they can hear you.
Hello, everyone. I'm Mariana Quintero. I work here at Fabla Barcelona. I'm originally Colombian. I was born in Colombia, but also with Brazilian roots. My mom is Brazilian, born of Italian immigrants that came to Brazil. So I think this is a bit about me.
And then Daphne, you can't escape. Yeah, just where Mariana was.
Hi, I am Daphne, and I am from Greece, Athens. But I've been living most of my life abroad, so that's it.
I'm really, actually really happy to have the room, primarily women, because I think that, you know, it's good to have this, it's good to have this perspective. It's good to have these types of reflections, especially with the content that we're going to be dealing with today. So I'm going to give you a brief overview of what is IndigiFab, what is my my project here within the Masters. So let me just switch over to Firefox here. And I'm going to go here, present. So my project is called IndigiFab, and my journey here at the Masters in Design for Emergent Futures has been a course of mapping, of reframing, of building interventions, of deploying interventions, but overall centering what I call acknowledging emergent origins. I understand what my personal connection is to X. And so when I talk about mapping, I talk about mapping out the local environment, mapping out local social structures and proximate digital systems. One such intervention that I did in terms of mapping, being here in Barcelona, was actually going around the neighborhoods where I was, in El Clot, El Born, and basically doing what I call language and context. Everywhere I saw printed Catalan, I would actually take a picture, transcribe, and then through a series of running those transcriptions through a neural network trained model, I actually got text-to-speech synthesis data from that, and then put that into an Instagram account. So a couple of things came out of that. Number one, understanding what it is for the language situation here in Catalonia, what the concern is as far as the status of the language. Oh, sorry. As far as the status of the language, as far as like what the future of the digital presence is, and then after some time, actually contributing in my own initiative to that future of the language. I just saw Sonia joined us. So Sonia, do you want to just very quickly say name, organization, and where you're calling from, where your ancestors are from, that sort of thing.
Hello, everyone. I'm Sonia Pryor-Jones. I work at the Fab Foundation. I'm calling from Cleveland, Ohio. I am an African-American woman in the United States, and my family migrated from Atlanta on my mother's side, Atlanta, Georgia, and West Virginia on my father's side to come to Cleveland, Ohio.
Yeah, and I see Sherry is here as well. Sherry, we're just having a quick round of introductions. I'm also talking about my project here at MDEF. So if you want to just really quickly tell us who you are, your organization, and where you're from, where your family's from, that sort of thing.
Thank you, Jean-Luc. I'm sorry to be late. Yeah, I'm Sherry Lassiter, and I work with the Fab Lab Network. I work with, used to work with Jean-Luc at the Fab Foundation, and Sonia is my good colleague, and I think maybe Rebecca is here as well. And I'm from originally Atlanta, Georgia. My great-grandparents were immigrants, and then we've been, in this country ever since. So, yeah, does that suffice?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to do very quickly. So going from mapping to reframing, actually thinking about what those different systems mean. What are the ways of knowing? What are the ways of connecting? What are the ways of changing? So actually sort of understanding how networks are built, and not just sort of digital networks, but social networks as well. So actually taking sort of those local resources and understanding how those resources connect, actually building out interventions, learning about new tools, new materials, new processes, then actually deploying out, sharing ideas, measuring the impact, iterating and scaling. And so this journey that I've taken at MDEF here at EAC, this is something that I actually want to share with other Indigenous communities and artisans going forward. So also, I'm a very busy person, not just the former employee of the Fab Foundation, student at MDEF, but I'm also the president of the board of directors of the North American Indian Center of Boston. Last year, in relation to Black Lives Matter, the murder of George Floyd, we actually pulled together a direct action. This is called Dismantle Now. And so what we wanted to do was actually highlight the creativity of our BIPOC community local in Boston. You see Taino members, you have Afro-Indigenous spiritual practitioners, all coming together in dance, in song, in art, but basically also to push forward, what are the demands of the community? What are the challenges, the social structures that we need to see within our world? Here within MDEF, once again, I actually was thinking about systems of value. So we actually have a genealogy here of the Nixon-Khrushchev kitchen debate, going into the 2010 IKEA kitchen debate. And then last term for design dialogues, I actually had sort of a microcosm of what a home and design space for citizen scientists, specifically Indigenous citizen scientists, what would that actually look like? And so what I would like to actually illustrate within the sort of genealogy is how the narratives that we have are embedded within our own built environments. And then what can we actually do to have value generated from alternative presence of those narratives that are embedded within our environments. Historically, for my own tribe, again, as I said, my tribe where we are in Louisiana, it's the remainder of a Spanish land grant. When we were actually like having treaties with France, with Spain, with England, we would get these medals. And the tribes would go back and forth between like the different generals and say, hey, you know, this Spain gave us this, France gave us this, England would give us this. And so we would switch allegiances in some ways of like, you know, these different, like somebody would get like a bigger medal. And so I kind of like took that, that flow, that type of historical relationship going from king to chief, being very individualistic, being something that is like what you see here. It is a piece of metal with a person's face emblazoned on it. And the value of that metal comes from that person's face. Going to actually like in New England, where I work with North American Indian Center of Boston, we have the example of the wampum belts. So these are belts that are actually like carved out of quahog shells. Each of these beads, you take, you know, the whole village would come together and drill each of these beads and then make a whole artifact, which would then become a legal document. So what you're seeing, you know, it is like, you know, we have pieces of jewelry, but actually like from that collective effort, that collective value that was generated, it actually is something that has much more significance. And so these are some of the sort of the historical references that I was thinking about again when we're talking about like how we actually generate value. Finally, for more recently, we have sort of like the ecological impacts of what's going on in New England right now. Sea levels are rising, and we're actually seeing coastal erosion harming these huge shell mounds that actually have history, thousands of years of history of indigenous peoples that are embedded within these mounds that are getting eroded away. And these actually started as refuse. These are like shells that, you know, of clams, of oysters that people would eat and throw in these midden mounds. But then also they would throw in pottery. Sometimes they would actually bury people within these mounds. And so you have a lot of history. You have a lot of value that actually comes from refuse. Coming over to a more modern example with Santiago X, who is a Kushada Kosari, excuse me, Chamorro architect. He actually took these jerseys from the Chicago Blackhawks. So this is a refuse of another kind. This is sort of like the unwanted artifacts of native mascots within our own environment. And he actually made a burial mound out of that. So taking that refuse and making value out of that. I wanted to, gonna stop the presentation here because I wanted to actually turn to why we're actually doing this art build. And so this is actually a statement from an interview with the chief of Kamloops Schwebnik, actually talking about the discovery of these remains.
I was devastated when I first heard this news. You know, I looked at it, you know, from the perspective, I'm a mom, I'm a grandmother, and for myself, it was, you know, how do I tell the world, you know, like my people, my community, and, you know, the nation, and, you know, all our consultants, you know, that we have found 215 remains. I was heartbroken, I was devastated. I thought, you know, the impact, the triggers that it was going to have on, you know, everybody because of the residential school and everything that, you know, our elders and our survivors have gone through. We were going through grief and loss here, knowing that these were children. It was very hard on the staff here, it was very hard on leadership, and it was very hard on our membership once they first found out yesterday. And, you know, I know that even with leadership throughout Schwebnik, we had a meeting this morning, and it was very hard for them too because, you know, they know the impact that it's had on their members. And, you know, it's about coming together and looking at that place of healing.
And then I'm going to switch over to this video. This is actually from university talking about the language program there. But you'll actually hear some of the impacts of this history that we're actually talking about.
Keeping the language alive is important. It's as important as any other language in the world. You know, there are thousands of Aboriginal languages that are becoming extinct, and we don't want our language to become extinct.
The program came together after a request from some First Nations language organizations within the community. They developed 10 First Nations language courses and the 3-year 92 credit program here at Thompson Rivers University.
The building of language is important for a university because we're a place of learning. This is the year of Truth and Reconciliation, which is prioritizing language. So on the revitalizing that is that to respect First Nations, they must get their language back because their language has their history, their philosophies, their ways of knowing. So the First Nations language is of extreme importance.
Really happy that the program's available here at TRU. It's very important for us, you know, especially here in Secwepemc territory, to actually have the ability to actually take language classes.
So a lot of the younger generations like myself don't know the language, so we need to learn the language and be able to share that knowledge with the new generations coming up now.
To me, to relearn what I've lost from going to a residential school and loss of my family, and to teach me. We have been here for thousands of years, but we've never had a written language. We've spoken the language, and I believe our language is probably older than English.
The goal of the program is to get students to learn a First Nations language and be able to teach this language in community, either in the public school, private schools, or within their communities.
Within that language is that environmental sustainable philosophy, and that's what we need in this world, because we need to find ways to get jobs and employment, but we also need to be sustainable and to protect the earth as best as possible. And you'll find that within the philosophies of the First Nations language.
The language embodies the culture and the traditions of any culture, of any society, of any peoples. So if we lose the language, we lose our culture, we lose our traditions.
My dream for this program within Thompson Rivers University is that when I walk around the campus, I will hear instructors and students speaking in a First Nations language. When I go out in community, I want to see our students teaching the language to our younger generations.
So I just do whatever I have to keep the language going.
So this is actually like, let me just stop the sharing for just a second. This is part of the issue is that when we have these situations where our families can't stay together, when children are forcibly removed, as we have seen with these residential schools, as we're seeing in many different situations, we're seeing a disruption of the transmission of ancestral knowledge. And you're seeing that second video, you're seeing sort of the community coming together, forming partnerships with local university, and actually trying to figure out, like, how do we actually recover? Like, how do we get to a point where we're actually a resilient community and reclaiming our language. For my own tribe, we have a situation where our last fluent speaker of our language died in the 1950s. And my family has worked to preserve our language and culture to the state to where it is. It's an awakening language. It was a dormant language. As a matter of fact, there were other systems that would say it was a dead language. But this is like over centuries of discrimination, of oppression, of colonialism, of everything that we can call it. But basically, when it boils down to it, like that day-to-day reality is that children are not able to speak in the languages of their elders and their ancestors, and this is something that is of a deep concern. And even when they do, they are penalized, and even sometimes to the point where they are injured or killed, as we're seeing with this discovery of this mass grave. And so, what can we do? What can we do? What is the call to action? And who should we, as educators, as designers, as concerned people who want to have solidarity with a specific Indigenous nation, finding our own way to relate to the situation? How do we actually act, and what is our responsibility to act? And so I want to actually just kind of open the floor for a few minutes. We have a couple of new arrivals. We actually are up to 10 people here on the Zoom room. I see Borja, I see Daniel, and then we have Clement and Guillaume, who have just joined us. But if anybody would like to actually reflect on some of what we've seen so far and what our responsibility to act in terms of being in solidarity with the community or the Indigenous communities in general, please, feel free to sound off. So Clem, can I call on you? Because I think you shared some thoughts before the session. So if you want, yeah, just come over here to the speakerphone. Just share some of your thoughts that you shared with me before when we spoke.
Hi everyone. I'm really humbled to be here today and thankful for Jean-Luc for hosting us today. I feel somewhat self-conscious speaking today because I'm French, right? And fully acknowledging the role that France has played in colonization and cultural erasure, and also in not acknowledging that today, whether it was in the Americas or in Africa or in Asia today. And so I like what Jean-Luc's presenting today, where not only we're acknowledging what happened, but he's also proposing a call to action. And so when I was looking at the draft letter that he prepared, I was thinking that I would like to address the elected officials in my country in fully recognizing and facing our history and recognizing the role that my country has played in these dynamics of oppression and beginning to do the work of dismantling the legacy of this history and this paradigm. Thanks. I think I'll leave it at that.
Yeah,
thanks.
Thank you, Clara.
Maybe. Wait.
Yes, Mariana, if you can come over here.
I just wanted to read a number because. Hello, I've also been quite interested from the beginning in what Jean-Luc brought to this year's program, because being Colombian myself, in a position of privilege. Colombia nowadays, we have 102 indigenous communities that are still alive, or that are alive in, that are still in existence, and that is only for Colombia. In Latin America, I think we have more. I was looking for the number, but 560 that are also still alive. And being a Colombian myself, from the beginning of Jean-Luc's research, I was, because it was about acknowledging land origins, it confronted me with the fact that I only know Colombia's cartography from the official cartography that I've known, that I have no idea where these 102 indigenous territories, where they end, where they begin, how they are recognized, acknowledged, distributed, the kind of the legal frameworks that exist. So I was completely somehow this has opened in me a profound interest to understand the land that I was raised in a different way, and to let's say learn from different sources of cartography to actually understand this land in a different way. And this is why I would like to address the letter actually to the National Institute of Cartography in Colombia, so that we, the younger generations, can understand or at least, I don't know, our land in a different light, and be more aware and understand how we can put our skills and our knowledge to use. So this is what I wanted to say to Jean-Luc.
Thank you. So like people have mentioned the letter twice, and actually the people online have not really been up to date on that. I actually kept the screen sharing off, and I hope, does the screen share show up on your end? Okay, good. Sorry for the hiccup earlier. So this is a draft letter to local, national, international officials. The situation has changed, but the specific concern regarding Indigenous children's right to life, survival, and development are closely related to access to and use of their land and the quality of the environment in which they live. Indigenous children's rights to protection from abuse, violence, and exploitation are impacted by environmental degradation, displacement, loss of traditional homelands, and attempts by authorities to assimilate communities. Indigenous children require the highest standard of health, quality education, effective protection and support, and a voice in decision-making processes that affect them. So there are some sub-points here that I'd like to, we'd like to go through a little bit later in the process. But the question for right now is who we would actually address this type of letter to. And this is not something that like us collectively address it to one person. But if you were to take this letter, if we were to kind of co-sign for each other, and then you take it to your own local official, your own national official, your own international official, who specifically from your own local ecosystem should be hearing this message? How can we build solidarity and support for the nation that's affected right now? But then how can we actually like address this more broadly in terms of cultural genocide, in terms of children's rights, and so forth? So that's the question right now. I think Yen has.
Yeah.
Yen, can you come over here to the speakerphone?
This is in. Yeah.
And then tell everybody who you are first, and then. The camera's right there. Sorry.
Hi, I'm Guillermo. I'm a student of MDEFest. And the question, what I was wondering, you mentioned this mass grave with 250 children. I wanted to know, is it known exactly what happened to them?
Yeah.
Are there any clues?
So no. This is so a little, because you came in a little bit later, but on May, so that's the first paragraph. On May 27th, the First Nation announced findings of a mass grave on the former grounds of the Kamloops Indian Residential School. The grave holds the remains of 215 Indigenous children, and at this point, we're actually waiting on a final report. So there are actually more children that are in this grave, and some of them are as young as 3 years old. On June 5th, Pope Francis expressed sorrow about the shocking discovery. According to the translation of his prepared statement, though he offered no official apology for the role of the Catholic Church played in the displacement of 150,000 First Nations, Inuit, and Métis children. So this is something that is like addressing, so there's a whole system of residential schools that displaced 150,000 of these children. And this is a grave of 215 plus children that were, let's say, victims of this system. And some of them were as young as 3 years old. Well, I don't know about like actually saying like murder or whether they were like starved or like what the circumstances are. We're waiting for the final report to have like, you know, how many are actually in the grave and then, you know, what specifically happened. But right now, this is part of a national, international movement of solidarity actions in relation to this discovery. So, yeah, go ahead.
Familiarized with the concept of the residential schools. How do they function, or how they historically function?
So the question from Mariana is like, how do residential schools historically function? And this is something that, while we're talking about Canada right now, this is actually something that is in the United States as well. These residential schools or boarding schools were actually either set up by the state or by the church in order to actually take children away from their families. And then the philosophy of it was to kill the infant but save the person. So this is a method of assimilation. This is promotion of monoculture. This is something that that children across both countries, across the continent, have experienced.
Yeah, I was wondering because in Colombia they call it misiones or the missions, no?
The missions.
Have the same role in educating.
So education then in Colombia as well, you're saying that.
No, from the colony on, the concept of the mission, or mission, or las misiones, is that concept that involves the action of, it was usually an order, a Catholic order that would establish a mission in a territory, and they would put a church, a school, and
yes.
This is what I was trying to.
Yeah.
The name as I know it in Spanish.
Yeah. There's definitely missions. There's definitely orders, and this is something that is. This is something talking about like the broader agenda of what it means to actually like assimilate the indigenous peoples, like disrupting that ancestral knowledge from elders to children. Really quickly, I want to do a time check. So I actually have like maybe like a couple more observations. Does anybody have any other observations? Does anybody have any thoughts about like who within their local ecosystem they would like to send this type of message to? Okay. we'll keep thinking. But what I'll do, I'm gonna stop and I'm gonna actually go. I want to actually switch to the stream cam. So tomorrow, this is actually part one of a two-part action. Not a manifestation. We have to say that this is still part of MDEFest, but this is like something that I just want to say that today's art build is going to support what's going to happen tomorrow. So what we're doing right now is we're actually designing some of the things that are going to happen tomorrow, and then we're actually going to take some of the digital designs and some of the artifacts that we make here today, and actually then bring that into the local area onto one of the beaches. So you're actually going to take part in the design of what we're going to be doing to express solidarity with the peoples in British Columbia. So this is actually an example of a prayer tie. I have corn that I dried overnight here at the large oven in the laser cutter room. And I started off thinking about actually making an offering, because in our Tunica Biloxi way. So how we do that is we have dried corn, and then it's actually, we actually take the husk, we dry that as well, and then we wrap it together. We make a little packet, and then we bring that every year on July 4th to the graves of all of our ancestors. Unfortunately, I was not able to find what was called maíz crudo. We only have the maíz dulce, which means we only have the kernels. We don't have the leaves. So what I did was I found a red scarf, just ripped it up here. And what we usually do when we have gatherings, when we have giveaways, when we have just prayers that we want to express at North American Indian Center, Boston, we make these prayer ties. So we have dried corn. We have, sometimes we'll put tobacco in here, and we just take this and make a little pouch and twist it like this. And then I'm going to take a piece of this is as orange as I could find. Orange is actually the color of the movement to support the First Nation that is at the center of all of this. I'm going to tie this really quickly. Make a quick little bow. And what I wanted to do, just to practice mindfulness, because this is something that, again, this is in support of children. This is honoring children. And so when I make something like this, especially for this cause, what I want to do is actually sit and reflect on my own life, how I actually started to learn how to make things by sitting at home with my grandparents and hearing from my grandfather's side. I heard French. From my grandmother's side, I heard her family is Mississippi Choctaw, so I heard Choctaw coming from her. And they would teach me beadwork, they would teach me basketry, they would teach me all sorts of things. They would teach me all of the songs, stories, language. And I just want to put that intention into making this type of thing, because we're talking about children, very young children, who did not have that opportunity, who were taken away from their families because of that type of transmission. So I want to like put like all of my intentions and offer like my experiences and honor the children in this way. So I'm going to just put down another one, and I'm going to cut a piece of twine here, and I'm going to open it up for one of our local participants. So anybody that would like to try, come up to the come up over here. So you're going to take some of the corn and just put it at the center. And you make like a little yeah, you just make like a little pouch. Oh no, that's good like that. Just make a little pouch. And just tie it with the yarn. Yeah, let's make a little hook. And good. And before you put it over there, I just wanted to ask you about like your own personal fight, like, you know, what brought you here to EAC, like what are some of the things that you care about? What are some of the intentions that you can put into this that you would like to offer?
It's a difficult question.
It's a difficult question.
But I guess for me was not feeling like I fit in or like feeling like I fit, but from another perspective, like from an educational point of view. So I guess my mission was more like dismantling this idea, this educational paradigm that is very deterministic in a sense, and does not allow room for imagination, for the arts, for creativity, for multidisciplinarity. So yeah, that was my drive.
So there's a system that doesn't allow for creativity, imagination.
Yeah, and playfulness.
And playfulness. Yeah. Very. Thank you. All right. So who's next? We have Mariana up next. Let's put down one of these. And I think, take the corn, put it in the center.
It's really soft. I thought it was going to be.
Yeah, it's actually like I could have dried it a little more, even though I left it in overnight. So.
It's okay.
Yeah. No, however much you feel, and then make the pouch, and then you can take cut the string for you. And you can tie it. And I would just ask you, like, I think probably to even build off of Daphne's sharing about education, like what about your own background, perhaps in Colombia, what are some of your thoughts about what is your fight in education? I guess I could say.
Yeah, I guess I have that one too, but I really wanted to give this offering, and I'm actually
say what you want to say.
It's a difficult topic for me, but I really want to say it because it's something that I care deeply about. I was close to taking my own life a couple of times, and it was ancestral knowledge that saved me. And I want to give thanks to everyone that has maintained this knowledge alive, that was able to give me that chance, and so that I can help others nowadays as well. So I want to give this offering to all of you that do this work.
That's we'll get some more. Do you want Do you want to try, or Jan, do you want to try? Okay. So say, like, what you say, like, we're gonna take some of the corn. This one for you. And then, yeah, as much as you feel is right. And then bundle that up. I'm just gonna make a little bow afterwards with the string.
So I wanted to dedicate this to my ancestors, and in particular my grandmother, who she had to leave school at 13 to go work on the farm, and she would always tell me the stories of she'd speak her indigenous language, which is Occitan.
Occitan.
And because that's all her parents could speak, they were illiterate, and in school they would beat her up or strike her with a metal ruler whenever she would speak Occitan with her and all of her friends, right? And a lot of her friends didn't speak French, and that's how they beat the language out of them. And then the generations after her, that's how the language was lost. And so yeah, I also appreciate the work you're doing, and it's resonating with me a lot.
Yeah, thank you, Clint. Okay, yeah, do you want to try? This here. So put the put some corn. I'll cut those strings for you. No, it's not free corn. If you want, and just make a bundle afterwards.
Sounds like tortillas.
Oh, tortillas are corn.
Yeah, tortilla chips.
Yeah, a big piece. Yeah. That's good. So this goes through a little bit. Okay. There we are. And you make a bow. Just like you're telling me to. And then before you put that what sort of intentions do you want to put into this?
What do you mean by?
Well, but how do you feel? Think about a time, perhaps like your grandparents, your aunt, your mom, somebody told you how to make something. What was the feeling back then? What were the languages that you were speaking? What were the sights, smells? Think about that. Think about those times, especially when you were a kid.
Well, I can think of a time where my grandparents were telling me to be useful. I mean, if that counts.
Okay.
I mean, yeah, I was 18, 19. I was just fooling around, messing around, not focusing on my studies, and I remember like how useful my grandfather's advice, and he's now dead, died. But he told me, you know, to try to make something out of myself in life, you know, is like trying to become something and stop fooling around. And honestly, I think that advice brought me here. And here I am doing my own things and trying to go ahead in life. But I need to, that my grandfather's advice always stayed on the back of my head. And I remember those times where I wasn't doing anything. And now looking back, I'm really grateful for his advice, for pushing me in this direction. Yeah.
Good.
So
There you go.
this is for you, Grandpa.
Good. Thank you. Thank you all for sharing. Let's see. I have a couple of things in the chat. It's back to the group camera. So we have in the chat. Okay, I see that we've Sherry and Sonia had to leave, but we're still going. Oops. I actually have to like watch my battery as well. So, does everybody have the Zoom? Okay. Yeah, if everybody can, if everybody has like everybody that's still here has the Zoom, I'm actually going to share out a couple of. I'm actually going to share out a link because we're going to do a virtual making activity now. Okay, thank you, Rebecca. Thank you. Okay, I'm gonna share out the mural for right now. When other people join, that's the shareable link. Let me, if people can try to click that, access it. I can see if I can add you to the board. So we're just going to take a minute to see if people can join that. I'm going to switch to screen sharing again. And that's shared. I'm just going to put on some music while we have people hopefully join this mural board that I created. Sure. I'll share this in the chat again. Do we need to share one more Thank you, Borja, for joining us today. All right, let me see if I got the.
I think I've requested access.
Yeah, I got Yen, and I have. I'm gonna share it to Wendy as well. There we go.
Baby.
I don't know what that. I wanted my friend's music, and then it switched to something else. So I'm not gonna worry about that.
Was it actually a flute?
Yeah, that was, so my family, we work with a Nipmuc Passamaquoddy flutist by the name of Henry's. Before I moved to New England, and in Boston, I actually had like a bunch of people from Wabanaki territory actually like visit our powwows, which are dances for our tribe. Here we go. Got Daphne as well. Okay, cool. I need to not show that again. All right, and then I got. Huh. Oh, did you got Marie-Louise, Clem? Good, okay. If we, as we have people coming in, so basically the goal of this exercise, this is called, I'm gonna zoom in on this. This is a chimali. And this is actually an altar that we built at North American Indian Center of Boston for Pride Month in 2018. This actually is people coming together, bringing flowers, bringing beans, bringing seeds, and then having this expression of unity, of spirituality, of giving a prayer to the four directions. And so what I wanted to attempt today, this is actually my first time actually doing this, is actually prototyping what we are actually going to aim to make tomorrow on a local beach here in Barcelona. So we're actually going to take some of these pictures of flowers, of beans, and then if you brought your own, you can put them in the column here. And basically what we're going to do is just basically a copy, paste, and then put it somewhere around the circle. So just kind of like make your own sort of design. We're going to keep the white flower at the middle of the circle, at the center of the circle, because that's how we start these. And then the candles will be here. But I want everybody to just kind of like as you feel, you know, just put flowers where you feel they should be within this design. We're just going to kind of prototype out something that looks like what we have from North American Indian Center Boston in 2018. So yeah, so let's just kind of get to it. Does anybody have any questions, either in the room or online?
We crop the picture in a circle as it did.
You can just like make it, you can just make it smaller. The goal of it is just to like make like a little collage, just so that we have like an idea of like what we would like to build tomorrow on the beach, or what you would like to see, you know, if you were here in Barcelona with us. So we're actually going to just kind of like do this collective like building of this design. And you can make the pictures as small as you want, and just kind of like build out the design. If you see any other, if you want to go online for a second, and you know, look for other pictures of flowers, of beans, of seeds, go ahead and do that as well. But yeah, let's just keep on building out this, building out the Chimali here. And as people have questions, just unmute yourself, or you know, just let us know. I'm just going to take a quick video. Anybody have any thoughts, questions, doubts? Everybody feels good?
How do you edit out these pictures? Yeah, like this one, you just like if you want to make it bring in circle shape.
Now I want everybody to keep building, keep building. And we're going to start thinking about some of the subpoints in the letter that we're hoping to draft together. So I'm going to say cultural genocide, specifically as experienced by Indigenous children and nations, impacts planetary health in the following ways. Keep building, but if anybody would like to share a thought, while they're building this out. How do you think, now that we're actually talking about this cultural genocide, and this is something, as we were hearing from some examples earlier, this is not just something that is experienced by First Nations in Canada. This is something that is not even experienced as by Indigenous peoples as we would perhaps commonly think of Indigenous peoples. Like this is a struggle against assimilation, against monocultures, against sort of like what prevents us from speaking the language of our elders and our ancestors. What is that type of cultural genocide, and how does that relate to planetary health? So if anybody has any ideas, see somebody in the chat, let's see. Disconnection to the past and traditional practices, says Wendy. Experiencing disconnection to the past and traditional practices. And experiencing disconnection to love and support from family. So as the guy said in a language video, sustainable practice that has developed over millennia.
I think building on what you said, the idea of mutuality and reciprocity and caring for the planet and the planet caring for us. And I think cultural genocide is destroying that, in the sense that, for example, ancestral ways of caring for the land, whether in wood, abundance, or prairies, or whatever the abundant region, has been replaced by kind of a standardized, globalized way of dominating or controlling the land. And conversely, ancestral ways of using global well-being for healing has also been.
Okay. So you're saying monocultures, perhaps, or let's say assimilation. I'm just trying to capture what you said that I could probably put into a bullet point. It was really. Oh wait. Let's see if we can get clown.
If I were to try to synthesize it in one bullet point, I'd say that the cultural genocide destroys the relationship that humans have always had with their environment. It kind of brings that
destruction of relationship between humans and local environment.
Yes, that's what you meant by disconnection.
I think disconnection is perhaps a bit different from the destruction of the relationship altogether between humans and environment. Guillaume, what were your thoughts?
I was going to write here. But
Standardization and homogenization, yes.
yeah, basically what they were saying, like culturally and economically, everything seems that it has to go the same way. And when you have, like say, cultural genocide, you have all these different perspectives and knowledge, not knowledge, but there are different ways of looking at the world and seeing how we should progress. But because of that, it's being put on the say, it's being like marginalized into the dark, kind of being forgotten.
Okay. I see also from Mariana, cultural genocide narrows immensely the possibilities of understanding how you can relate to yourself and the others, understanding who you are. Narrowing understanding of who we are and who we are to others. Okay. On the side of the perpetrators too, who can be human and put 215 children in a mass grave? So when we're actually having that question, Wendy, when we're actually having the question of like on the side of the perpetrators who can be a human and put 215 children in a mass grave, we're going to get to the next sub-point of the draft letter. We call upon the officials within our local, national, and international social structures too. So thinking about what happened, what do we want our leaders or the people who are working for us, right? The public servants, what should they be doing to respond? How should they probably maybe prosecute this? How do they demonstrate humanity? Yes. So what is the call to action? Actually, yeah, I'm going to put the demonstrate humanity as point number 1. Demonstrate humanity. Exercise compassion. Well, I'm actually adding my own as exercise. To exercise compassion for impacted communities. We can edit this. And to demonstrate their own humanity by. Yeah, and what? So it's to demonstrate their own humanity by. Should I say exercise compassion for impacted communities, or to demonstrate humanity by reparations? Thank you. Okay. We call upon the officials within our local. It's not enough to apologize, says Wendy. Demonstrate humanity by reparations. Apologies are not enough. Exercise compassion for impacted communities. Well, actually, no, that's a bit weak at this point. I think the reparations is actually pretty strong. Let's see. So asking the communities what they want. Honor free, prior, and informed consent through a consultation process with impacted communities, say. Reconciliation and redemption. So yeah, so there's the truth and reconciliation. The commission in Canada. So there is. Let's say also to educate the public on the truth behind this system. Okay. And then finally, as a community of designers, educators, and activists, we pledge to support by what are we going to be doing outside of writing a letter to our public servants? What can we do to continue to be active in this process? Yeah, I see. Actually, it might have been maybe my. I don't see any movement on the mural. I think this is actually. I think we're okay here. So I'm going to go ahead and switch to the tab here. So now we're actually in the editing process of this letter. I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to, let's see, how do I get link? How about anyone with the link can be an editor? How about that? Okay, so I'm going to put the link in the chat for the letter now. So now we're going from the virtual Chimale. We're going to go into the Google Docs now. See, Mariana is here. Anybody with the link should be able to edit this. To response to this communication, this letter. Okay. Do we have, I'm going to go back to the chat here, and I'm sharing the screen correctly, right? Everyone can see the letter? Okay.
Yes.
Okay, good. All right. So as a community designers and educators and activists, we pledge to support by continuing to demand a response to this letter. What other things can we do to actually how can we be active in this process? How can we continue to practice solidarity with the community and other communities who have gone through this Hmm. Okay. That's an interesting one. Yeah, I'm added under the second one to create autonomous regions and provinces.
There's so much space in the US. And we go
to continuing to speak about this with others, continue to promote awareness by speaking about this issue with others. And then
I want to say this on your meeting, the on the point and then point that we call something official within our local. This I was saying to you, like for example, we have the National Institute of Cartography, that we don't have freely available documentation on the actual structuring of the territory according to land acknowledgement. So that these materials should, or funds should be
so direct funds.
Prior consent with, I guess.
So there's the issue of reparations that Wendy brought up, which would be like, okay, this happened. This is what the community is owed. But then also like there's a continuing resource pocket of resources from governments that would aid the indigenous communities. So let's start with how you were starting, which was the direct funds for increased support from public agencies. How do we, okay. Can we do like what, and if anybody wants to edit anything, but what can we do like ourselves, signers, educators, activists, yes, with full consultation, yes. Support, continue to demand a response to the letter, continue to promote awareness by speaking about this issue with others. Continue to honor the rights of peoples to preserve and develop cultures and provide assistance when invited. Say something like this. Yes, capital I. Okay. Okay. So we have some action points. If so, everybody has the letter. What I'm going to do, I'm going to go down to the signatories. I'm going to be the first one here. I'm going to say I'm going to add makeup because that's I'm president, and I feel like I have the most rah, I can like come at people that way. But I can, I'll just like sign off on this. If you feel like you wanna add like your name, this is something that we are, this is something that we hope that people can share within this bubble, within this community practice. Like we hope that we can co-sign this and then send to our elected officials wherever they are. So I am showing solidarity with you now by co-signing on a letter that you will then bring to your own local officials, your own national officials, your own international officials. And so I'm adding my voice to your demands. And we are together then building a coalition for solidarity with the Indigenous nation. So I'm just gonna let us work on that just a little bit more.
To me, I feel like if we're to send this letter to these different officials or authorities, I feel like especially the higher up you go in terms of scale of government, the more vague it gets. And I think that maybe we should seek to make it as specific and concrete as possible, and present them with, I like how you framed this as a call to action, but I think the politician could very much, make their own declaration or speech or whatever to just watch the end of it and move on, right? So how can we phrase it in a way that demands a certain commitment on behalf of the people that we, because one day they could say, yes, I want to honor these communities, whatever, and the next day they might sign a deal with a mining or energy company, granting them the right to exploit the landscape of these people. Right? So I think it's incredibly powerful, right? So how can we think to make it a bit more binding?
Okay. So Clem is saying, how can we make this more, how can we have the language that it's more binding? How can we be sure that when we are writing to politicians in this way, that they won't just sign a declaration that says they will do something and then not follow through with it? So how can we have concrete actions attached to this communication? Does anybody? Okay, so we're all at different places in decolonization. Wendy says, and I'm thinking nationally, yes. So that like from a national perspective, we're at different phases in terms of like decolonization. So does that? So the question from Clem, just to like keep that in mind, is how do we make this concrete? How do we then also, from Wendy's point, how do we recognize that we are all in different places in terms of decolonization on the national perspective? Does anybody have any other thoughts? Or does anybody have any responses to some of these ideas? Like making these actions concrete? Recognizing where we are in the process of decolonization. And I haven't really heard from anybody online. So, actually, Wendy, you're like you're our holdout in New Zealand. Thank you so much for staying up for all of this. Yeah, so just like how do we then I'll just like keep it within the room, and then one day if you want to unmute at any point, or if you want to keep on chat, that's fine. But how do we make this concrete? How do we recognize our own national reality?
I guess it depends as well, no? Because each national jurisdiction has also tools that the citizens can use as petitions. That I'm thinking about Colombia. You know, if I wanted to ask, for example, there is a law regarding open data that would allow me to ask for free available maps of indigenous territories in Colombia, and I could follow through with that process, and actually I could have all the evidence to win that petition, but it would take. But it depends on. That's why I'm thinking that we come from so many different places. So I only know some of the tools that I would have in my jurisdiction, or at least as a citizen of Colombia, that I know. Here, I don't even know here, for example, in Spain.
So we're all in different places. We're all in different places in terms of decolonization. We're all in different places in terms of like what the social systems are and how we navigate them, from Colombia to Spain, to Portugal, to France, to New Zealand, to Greece, to the United States. Wendy asks, who are we to decide what is necessary? The actions must be led by the affected communities, and we can only support it. So, I'll wake up everyone in the house if I start talking with headphones on. Okay, sorry. So we're not, so we want to make sure that we are not, we're not deciding specifically. We also should be recognizing what the demands are of the affected community. So we are, so there are things like releasing the records of the Kamloops Indian Residential School. There are calls, you know, whether we would support it or not, but the actual apology from the Catholic Church might be something that that might be there. So what we might want to do, we have a draft, we have something that, you know, is possible, and we also have this recording. This is something that is actually going to be, we're actually going to share this recording with the tribe, with the chief, with the council. We're going to say that, you know, we sat together, we went through this whole process. We want to have attention towards the specific issue. We want to be able to perhaps mobilize people on a local, national, international scale around this issue. And then, you know, ask, you know, what specifically does the affected community want and need at this point, and how can we contribute to that healing? So I'm gonna stop sharing and just gonna bring it back. Just give us like 5 more minutes. And we're gonna close out. So as I said, we're gonna take what we've done digitally today. We've prototyped some things digitally today. We're going to take these prayers, these reflections, these feelings, we're going to take that and we're going to bring that to local beach here in Barcelona, build out in atoms, what we've constructed in bits today during this session. But then really, like, again, practice that mindfulness, practice like having those intentions and then building solidarity with those affected communities. And making sure that every step of the way that people understand that we are here having this, you know, we want to have this relationship. Is there something that, you know, perhaps can be said better? Is there something that perhaps like people want to, like, you know, add to that? Where are people right now after we've gone through this process of going through a couple of making activities and then trying to, do you feel like you understand some of the issues that we're talking about today? How do you feel about the making activities that we were doing together? Do you feel like you have like a call to action even for yourself?
I'm always in a position to learn what size or what part of me gets revealed in the teachings of everyone that I share this with. And it always opens a space to in a way that I've learned that I cannot, it's impossible for me to help everything that I would want to aid or to put my skills to. But I find that just sharing that moment and sharing that heart and mind in this space with the people that are here, it already has such power over the changes that it creates in the mind of each of us. It might be changes that will maybe be seen in 50 or 100 years. Maybe one of us would be able to have, let's say, more direct action to help in a specific way. But I realized that this is not the defining way in which to assess if I was helpful or not, or even to change the idea of being helpful. Just keeping that memory alive of those lives that were lost, or those terrified children, perhaps, and just sharing that, bringing them into presence here and or with people that are online, and just creating that connected concern and love. It's ultimately about sharing a bond of love between the souls that are not here anymore or the ones that are here, but it's just strong enough for me to understand that I still want to participate in these shared spaces, and whenever I can be, maybe I will not be able to help in all the ways that I could, but I put all my love and all my heart, just putting my presence and my care into the community.
Yeah. So thank you for that. Yeah, it is. It's definitely, we definitely have to remember that there's the affected communities, but then also this is what we're called here to honor in this art build and this memorial, is that there are little ones that are no longer with us, that have suffered this tragic history, but we are, you know, through this collective action, you know, as far away as we can, you know, from, you know, as far away as we are from their homeland, we're still carrying their story. And so, you know, at least, you know, they are here through the actions that we're having today. And we are forming connections between ourselves and them, and then centering them and saying, no, this shouldn't happen to any child. This shouldn't happen to any people. And, you know, hopefully we can do something in the future that can help, you know, maybe not prevent, I don't know, this is a point where perhaps like it's a challenging for me as well. Is what specifically can we do? Of course, first listen to the people that are impacted. Secondly, assist them in any way that they define as far as like a need and a priority. And in this point, at the very least, holding the story of their children and honoring their children is something that, it's done all throughout Canada. It's going to be done in Boston, with North American Indian Center in Boston. And, now we also have here in Barcelona as well. So this is, an international call for justice for these children. Do you have any other thoughts before we close out?
Actually, I was thinking about when they were like tearing down the statues of Christopher Columbus. That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, like tearing down all. There's like it's very important to maintain some references, like those statues of people who committed, like, let's say, crimes or atrocities, because if we don't have that past reference, how can we guide ourselves in the future,
Okay.
So this coming back to what we've been talking about, it's important to remember this and other atrocities and crimes and horrible things that happen, and people need to be reminded of this constantly, because if not, their behavior will shift naturally could shift naturally towards a very negative.
Well, we'd hope that people are naturally inclined to atrocities. We're hoping that people are naturally inclined towards love and compassion, but there is a need for accountability for those atrocities. And those calls for accountability, should come from communities who are affected, and whether it's reparations, whether it's an apology, whatever it is, that's something that should be defined by the community. And again, we're holding this moment. We're holding the stories of these children. We're hoping that through collective action, we're able to support. So, and Quinn, anybody else?
Yeah, I just wanted to echo Mariana's thought. I couldn't have worded it any better. We start a presence here with each other. I think that was really powerful. And I really enjoyed the manual activity, this little ritual, because it was very meaningful. And yeah, and start presence here means we're committed to this issue, and it's not something you solve like that, but it's something that we and recognizing that we are very tied to the stories.
We're tied to the stories of the children, and echoing Marianne, I think being grateful for the power of this moment. I'm going to be merciful to Wendy. I know that you've stayed up all night, and I'm so grateful for you, for your mentorship, for these past 6 years that we've been running the world together. We're running around the world together, not running the world together. And I want to be thankful for like everybody that was able to share some moments with us, Daniel and Sherry and Sonia and Rebecca, everybody that was here. Just thankful for their time thankful for everybody that's able to, like, you know, watch this recording after the fact, and hopefully this is something that will inspire further solidarity and further spreading of the story and further drawing connections between ourselves and what has happened, and the call for justice. Thank you, thank you, Wendy. Really showed that everyone had a story that could relate to the loss and suffering. These were someone's children, and they had names. And yes, and they don't deserve to be just thrown together the way that they were. We have to uplift their names, and hopefully, like, through their stories, uplifting their stories, you know, ultimately we'll get to a point, hopefully through the final report even, we'll know the names of the children, or at least, you know, come to recognize that this is not a statistic, but these are actual living people who were taken from us far too early. On that note, thank you all once again. Please, when, you know, I'll share out this link on the networks and everything, make sure that people get, you know, a chance to view this, and let's keep on sharing the power that we've cultivated today. So thank you all. Ciao, see you.